Normally I base my neighborhood videos on Munich's official administrative boundaries, but this video is different. This time I'm focusing on Giesing as a whole. That's because Giesing is divided into two administrative districts, Untergiesing-Harlaching and Obergiesing-Fasanengarten. But Giesing is so rich in history and stories that dividing it along administrative lines simply wouldn't do it justice. Giesing was first mentioned on July 14, 1790 as Giesinger, a name derived from Kaiser's settlement. That makes Giesing 360 years older than Munich. In the early 16th century, Munich became the capital of a reunited Bavaria and attracted more and more artisans and day laborers. But many of them were not allowed to settle within the city itself, so they made their homes just outside Munich, including here in Giesing. Over time, Giesing developed a strong working-class character, and unlike in many other Munich neighborhoods, you can still feel some of that character today. In 1818, Giesing became an independent municipality, and in 1854 it was incorporated into the city of Munich. And this is Giesing's landmark, the Church of the Holy Cross. Giesing's rapid population growth in the 19th century meant that the old medieval village church had simply become too small. After Giesing was incorporated into Munich, plans for a much larger church were finally put into action. Construction of today's neo-Gothic Church of the Holy Cross began in 1866 and the church was consecrated in 1886. For another 2 years, the old village church still stood right next to the new one, before it was demolished in 1888. Today the Church of the Holy Cross stands alone on Giesinger Berg, high above the eastern bank of the Isar. Its 95-meter tower can be seen from across Munich, almost as if the people of Giesing wanted to proclaim their pride in their neighborhood to the entire city. And just behind it you've already arrived at the Feldmüller Settlement. It was named after Therese Feldmüller, who sold small plots of lands here to craftsmen, day laborers and small tradesmen in the 1840s. They built these simple, most single-story houses, often with small gardens or workshops in the back. This makes the Feldmüller settlement one of the earliest examples of a worker settlement of this kind in Germany, and today the entire area is protected as a historic ensemble. Giesing is also firmly in the hands of the blue TSV 1860 Munich, the Lions, the traditional local rival of the red FC Bayern Munich. In the mid-1960s, 1860 were actually Munich's #1 football club. They reached the European Cup Winners' Cup final in 1965 and became German champions 1 year later. And between 1994 and 2005, the Lions once again spent 10 consecutive seasons in the Bundesliga. But those glory days are long gone. Years of sporting failures and above all catastrophic mismanagement pushed the club further and further down the German football pyramid. Today, TSV 1860 plays in the Regionalliga Bayern, Germany's 4th division. There used to be an old saying in Munich: if you live in Munich, you support 1860. If you live out in the countryside, you support Bayern. With Bayern's enormous success and the Lions' seemingly endless struggles, I don't think that really applies anymore. Except here in Giesing. Here people still stand by the Lions, and you can see that everywhere. The Grünwalder Stadium is also located here. It was originally built by TSV 1860 Munich in 1911. Making it Munich's oldest football stadium. In 1937, the club was in serious financial trouble and had to sell the stadium to the city of Munich. It has remained city-owned ever since. The stadium was badly damaged during the Second World War and later rebuilt. More than 58,000 spectators once packed into the stadium. Today its capacity is just 15,000. When the Olympic Stadium opened in 1972, the Grünwalder lost its status as Munich's main football ground. Over the following decades, the Lions moved between different stadiums. At times they played at the Olympic Stadium and later at the Allianz Arena. But for many of the fans there was always only one true home, the Grünwalder. Today, TSV 1860's first team and FC Bayern Munich's second team play here. And if you simply want to experience the atmosphere of German football, this can actually be a great alternative to the Allianz Arena. Tickets are usually easier to get, and while the football here may no longer be first division level, the atmosphere is world class. And one little piece of trivia: Monty Python's famous Philosopher's Football match was filmed right here. The Olympic Stadium is shown at the beginning of the sketch, but the actual match was filmed at the Grünwalder.
And here's Marx. Let's see if he can put some life into this German attack. Evidently not.
Just under a kilometer away from Grünwalder Stadium, the Lion stronghold, there is a red spot in Giesing, the headquarters of their great rival and Germany's most successful football club, FC Bayern Munich, on Sebener Straße. Bayern began training here in 1949 on what was then a simple municipal sports ground. Legends like Franz Beckenbauer and Gerd Müller still changed into their kits in an old wooden hut. In 1971, a modern club headquarters opened here, bringing the training ground and the club offices together for the first time. And remarkably, parts of it was financed by the club's own members. Basically an early form of crowdfunding. More than 500,000 Deutschmark were raised this way. Today, of course, FC Bayern is in a rather different financial position. So I'm here at McDonald's in Giesing, and it's not just any other McDonald's, it's Munich's oldest McDonald's, it's Germany's oldest McDonald's, and it's Europe's second oldest McDonald's. And and I thought I have a Big Mac, which I hadn't for a while. Here's my Big Mac. Okay, let's try it. I mean, it's McDonald's, but freshly made, not since 1971. Okay, the Big Mac didn't exactly blow me away, but the restaurant is genuinely historic. It opened on December 4, 1971, just a few months after Europe's first McDonald's opened in Zaandam in the Netherlands. That original Dutch location no longer exists, which makes this the oldest McDonald's still operating in Europe. Whether that's a cultural achievement is something everyone can judge for themselves. However, what many consider a cultural enrichment is the Giesinger Brewery. It was founded in 2006 in Untergiesing, where it started in a simple garage. The beer proved so popular that in 2014 the brewery moved here to Giesinger Berg, where it found a much larger production facility. But even that soon became too small. So in 2020, Giesinger opened a second, much larger brewery in the north of Munich, where most of its regular beers are produced today, around 40,000 hectoliters a year. Brewing still takes place here on Giesinger Berg, but mostly specialty beers in smaller quantities, which you can then sample right here in the Bräustübel. Since 2021, Giesinger has also been officially allowed to use the protected designation Münchner Bier, Munich beer. To qualify, they even drilled their own well more than 150 meters deep. Munich beer has to be brewed within the city using groundwater from beneath Munich. So does that mean that Giesinger will soon be served at Oktoberfest? Well, being a Munich beer is not enough. According to the Oktoberfest regulations, only beer from efficient and proven traditional Munich breweries may be served. And what exactly makes a brewery a proven and traditional Munich brewery is, of course, open to interpretation. Giesinger has been campaigning for years to be allowed onto the Oktoberfest. Until that happens, its seasonal beer is simply called Festbier. Because even the name Oktoberfest beer is protected, only beer brewed for and served at Munich's Oktoberfest may carry that name. Across from the Giesinger Brewery and below the Church of the Holy Cross stands a modern work of art. But what's more interesting is what once stood here. In 1942, the Nazis erected a monument here honoring the Freikorps, in the socialist working-class neighborhood of Giesing of all places. In 1919, right-wing parliamentary Freikorps brutally suppressed the Bavarian Soviet Republic. Socialists and suspected revolutionaries in particular were murdered, and some of the fiercest fighting took place here in Giesing. 23 years later, the Nazis erected this disgraceful monument in honor of the Freikorps. It stood here only 3 years. In 1945, it was torn down by the American military government. Do you want to invest your money safely with high interest rates? Do you have trouble sleeping and need the perfect pillow? Do you want to learn a language within weeks? I speak English well. Well, Giesswein can help you with any of that, but if you need comfortable shoes, they are perfect. And since I walk through Munich for hours almost every day, I can tell you they deliver. Giesswein makes comfortable merino shoes from Austria, light, breathable and perfect for long walks. And with my code Munich20 you get 20% off. You'll find all the links in the description. At the northern edge of Obergiesing lies the Ostfriedhof cemetery, with Auheithausen beginning just beyond it. But the cemeteries alone can fill entire videos with their stories, so I'll skip this one for now. I'll make a separate video about it sometime in the future. From here I take the tram 3 stops south to Giesing station, today an important transport hub for S-Bahn, U-Bahn, trams and buses. What's more interesting to me is the old station building. Built in 1898, it is now a protected historic landmark and one of Munich's last surviving suburban station buildings. When the station opened, it stood more than a kilometer away from the center of Giesing, surrounded largely by fields. It wasn't until the 1930s that the growing neighborhood finally reached the station. Today, the old station building is used as a cultural center, hosting concerts and exhibitions. If you take tram 18 to its southern terminus, you'll arrive at the cemetery at Perlacher Forst. Here too, there are enough stories to fill an entire video, especially about the White Rose Resistance Group. Several of its members are buried here, including Hans and Sophie Scholl, Christoph Probst and Alexander Schmorell. So I'll save this cemetery for a future video. Right next to the cemetery lies Stadelheim, Munich's large prison. It has room for around 1,400 inmates and has long been jokingly nicknamed Saint Adelheim by locals. The prison was built here in 1894. Its darkest chapter came during the Nazi era. Between 1933 and 1945 alone, at least 9,399 people were executed here. Among them were Hans and Sophie Scholl and Christoph Probst of the White Rose Resistance Group. Ernst Röhm, once one of Hitler's closest buddies and later his political rival, was also murdered here in 1934 during the Night of Long Knives. If you walk a little further west along Stadelheimer Straße, you'll come to the former McGraw Barracks and the McGraw Ditch. If you're interested in the barracks and the housing complex where the American soldiers lived, you can watch an older video I made that covers exactly that. I just want to highlight one building here that is particularly interesting from a historical perspective. This monumental building was constructed between 1935 and 1937 by the Nazis as the NSDAP's Reich Clothing Depot, or Reichszeugmeisterei. This was the central office responsible for uniforms and other official Nazi party equipment. In other words, this is where the brown shirts got their brown shirts. You can still see above the entrance where a huge Nazi eagle and swastika once stood. After the war, the complex was taken over by the US Army and initially became the headquarters of the American military government for Bavaria. So for a time, Bavaria was effectively governed from here in Giesing. The Americans continued to use the complex for various military and administrative purposes until 1992. After they left, parts of the former barracks were taken over by the Munich police, which still uses this building today. After Obergiesing, I'm heading on to Untergiesing. Apart from my little detour to FC Bayern, I haven't really explored this part of Giesing yet. Today's Untergiesing lies below the Giesinger Berg in the low-lying area between the Isar and the steep eastern bank of the river valley. For a long time this was a poor area settled mainly by the day laborers and craftsmen. But only a few of the old houses have survived in Untergiesing today. If you want to get a better idea of what this kind of neighborhood once looked like, you actually have to head north into today's Auheidhausen. And this is where Munich's neighborhood's boundaries become confusing again. Parts of what was historically called Untergiesing are actually located in today's Auheidhausen. Instead, along the Auer Mühlbach, which runs through the neighborhood, you'll find a lot of post-war apartment blocks. And even though I'm really not a fan of post-war architecture, I have to admit I find these buildings painted in different shades of orange and surrounded by green courtyards somehow quite charming. Nearby on Pilgersheimer Straße you also find Gans Woanders, a rather unusual venue for culture, music, food and drinks. Originally an old abandoned kiosk stood here. The first idea was simply to bring the kiosk back to life with a new cultural concept. Unfortunately, the old wooden building was already in a terrible condition, including a serious woodworm problem, and couldn't be saved. So instead, they built this wonderfully imaginative little witch's cottage, which opened in 2020. From there, I made my way toward the Isar. On the way, I first passed the municipal nursery. Hidden just behind it, almost on the banks of the Isar, is Munich's Rose Garden. It serves as a municipal nursery show garden. You can admire around 8,500 roses here, and there's even a garden dedicated to poisonous plants. I've covered the rose garden in a little more detail in an older video. At the corner of Sachsenstraße and Claude-Lorraine-Straße stands this interesting octagonal building. Anyone who has seen my bunker video might already recognize what it is. A World War II air raid bunker. In 2005, it became one of Munich's first bunkers to be converted into luxury apartments. And just across the street is the Schyrenbad, Munich's oldest outdoor swimming pool. It opened all the way back in 1847 and was originally supplied with water from the Isar. I didn't film anything inside because I don't think it would come across particularly well if I stood outside with the camera filming half-naked people over the fence. That was my rather long tour through historic Giesing. I hope I didn't leave out anything important, and should I have missed something, let me know in the comments. For a little taste of Giesing yourself, just take the U2 to Silberhornstraße, walk up Giesinger Berg, explore the neighborhood, and finish with a beer at Giesinger Bräu. You can also support videos like this by leaving a little something in my digital tip jar, but the best way to support my work is to book a tour with me. I show you Munich beyond the obvious sights, from the famous highlights to neighborhoods and hidden gems like Giesing. And we can even combine your tour with a classic Weißwurst breakfast at the Isartor Turmstüberl. See you in the next video, Philipp.